while we wait for the next set of people, the people from the other breakout room to walk in, I do want to kick us off a little bit. As a research center within the business school, we just want to show you a little bit of sort of a snippet of the results that we're working on right now. And we will actually have a full report coming out in a couple of months. But for now, so the opinions that we hold at the center are not just made up. We do a survey every single year, and obviously we do a lot of academic research here. That's what academic universities do. For this year's survey, we surveyed about 150 CEOs and CFOs. And as for those of you who saw my article in Harvard Business Review, it was about you don't have to be a software company to think like one. Our point of view on the world is a lot of the value creation opportunities are sort of driven by know-how and intellectual property, but the only way you scale those is if you codify them into software and leverage platforms to capture value. So that's our point of view. And to try and understand where sort of the state of digital transformation is in the country, we basically asked these 150 C-level executives how they assessed their own company, whether they thought they were ahead, behind, on par, or relative to the competition. And it was sort of interesting because only 14%, which is good. I mean, everybody can't be significantly ahead. So you can look at that pie chart, but 46% of the companies think they are ahead. 20% think they're behind. And I like the quote from the last panel, the 2 panels ago, where if you don't think you're being disrupted, you already have been. I thought that was sort of telling. Here's what's sort of interesting. So what I want to focus on, because I don't have a lot of time, is to talk to you about the people that we see significantly ahead. And that's the column on your right. And if you just look at that and pay attention to that column and contrast it with everything else, you'll get a very quick snapshot of what I'm going to be telling you. So these people who think they're ahead of their competition are well on their way to executing a strategy. And the people on the left, the people who are behind, don't even have a digital strategy at this point. So that tells us a lot about sort of the distribution of where different companies are. When you start getting into the discussion about software being a competitive differentiator, again, you find that almost even 60% of the people who are behind recognize this, but they're not doing it. A lot more of the people who are successful see it as a differentiator. And they're spending a lot more money on software. So you begin to see that as they believe something, and then are they making the strategic investments that they need to succeed, you begin to see that, in fact, in every CIO, we run a group of 29 CIOs, they're all investing, increasing their investments in software. Very large percentage of the people who are ahead see software as a necessary core competence. That number sort of goes, sort of gets smaller as you move to the left. But again, speaks to sort of where the leading companies are and why they are all, you look at the GEs and the Targets and the Warner Brothers, they're all sort of focusing on this. And then we ask them a provocative question: is your company becoming a software business? And it doesn't mean, do you stop doing whatever it is you're doing? Do you also see yourself as a software business? And a surprisingly large percentage of them all agreed with us. In terms of where they saw themselves as struggling, I think it's sort of interesting. The leading companies think that their senior leadership actually has the visionary and innovative skills. Far fewer as you get to sort of the companies that are not as far ahead. Same thing holds true for, do you have the talent, the technical talent? So we're not just asking broad innovation talent. These are the software engineers, the data scientists, the product folks. Every single senior executive who talks to you tells you that this is the biggest barrier to innovation, biggest barrier to change. And again, the leading companies think that they've made progress towards solving that, or at least addressing that issue. I don't know that culture ever gets completely solved. And here's a big one, strangely enough. IT infrastructures, we saw with Delta and United, for a lot of companies is still an issue. You know, this CEO of G Digital was here last year. And he said, even though we're a massive company with scale as big as almost anybody else, we don't have what he called a cost to serve as competitive as Amazon. And so you begin to see that there's a lot more that needs to be done, not just on cost, but on robustness, on agility, scalability. So Netflix runs on Amazon. The gentleman from Ticketmaster has told us a very interesting story where, you know, when the Rolling Stones go on tour, they have incredible spike in demand for a couple of hours. So you don't really need capacity, you know, 24/7 times 365. So how do you work in those kinds of business digital infrastructure match? So that's where we are. Just want to give you a sense that there's sort of, beyond just, there is a lot of research that underlies sort of our points of view. And then what we try to do is exemplify sort of what our research is showing with really interesting sort of case studies and stories and sort of lessons and learnings that our executives share with us. So once again, thank you to all of us for coming. Thank you to all of you for participating.